Okay, a while since I made a video showing a few things. Particularly this is a Chevy Celebrity diesel. I got the axles in, the axle seals. It's gonna put the other tie rods in. I got the lower control arms on. Still got to put the sway bar in. Debating whether I do something now with the whole AC system as it is. I don't have the top, hose. It's unavailable. I was thinking that maybe I can use, buy one that is available and, kind of adapt it, at least to get it done by over here where where it comes up the top there. As you can see, I got the bottom line in. This line was basically unavailable. I got the last one on the planet like a couple of years ago, and I'm finally doing it now. I got the orifice tube in. I just have it screwed on. I got to put a O-ring in there. I put a new glow plug controller. I put this contraption here, which basically takes the original power instead of those crappy, what do you call it? They are somewhere here. I think I might have tossed them. Hard to believe since I don't throw anything out. Yeah, here it is. So this thing here, it's very flimsy. It's only 18 gauge, and I was a little shocked at that. But you could tell like it gets a little corrosion. One of them is definitely no good because like you can pull on it and the wire is like not there. You're just stretching the thing. I think it's right over here. This guy. This is where we stretched. There's nothing there. Basically it melted. And they all basically are made to fail, these things, you know. You see, this is 18. I put 20 gauge in, 12 gauge wire. So I took the original power, brought it to these guys, which I have a separate one for each one, because basically each side powers each half of the block. And it's amazing how good this engine started. It would take a bunch of cranking, and they used a trunk pop switch as a momentary switch to activate this. Now, I believe that's the way you get it going, but when the timer is shot, it doesn't work on its own, you know. So, because this one's like an 8-second one, so people put that switch in there, but it was a little tiny wire which slowly heated it up. I'm lucky I didn't burn out the things, but I think if they were Bosch, they usually shut off on their own. So now there's Bosch in there, so it's not gonna fry, but I got full power going to it now, and hopefully the wiring was meant to work. I fixed this. I put a new connector. These are things I found on the internet a long time ago, like 2-3 years ago. And like I said, I made these connections here. This is the original wire down here. Got that cap back on down there that says "Do not jump from here." Even came with this clip here to hold it in. I did the booster, but I decided to take out the accelerator cable because I bought it. I'm like, this is the time to do it. I slipped in this guy for the thing. This was a pain in the ass. Still got to run it, and I got to change the seal on the speedometer. I actually did. It's right here. I got to change this O-ring though, because it's kind of silly not to do it. More shit dropping. What else? Yeah, so if I decide to put the AC condenser in, I have 3 of the rubber bushings, the proper rubber bushings. I found them as well. They were like $20 each, but I don't have the bracket. So I'm not quite sure, but I'll probably just make something. But there's literally 0 room in here. It's like, even if it wasn't a diesel, we're talking about a hassle. And I'm like, if I do that, do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do the other thing? This is an original GM, one of the oil hoses, which looks pretty high quality, and it stands to be because they usually last a long time. Only thing is, it's probably close to 40 years old. Hopefully it's okay. Obviously, I could have just had one made. Not sure if this is the top. It kind of looks like the top one. I would say this is the top one. But however, kind of looks like the bottom one. I forgot which one I got. I have to double check on the internet. But between all this mess here, and I bought a new pump there because it was funny. I had a little tiny vacuum leak at one time, and then the brakes would not work, and the brake light came on. So apparently, the brake light automatically comes on when there's low vacuum. So I don't think this pump even though the brakes worked fine once it was, when I knew it was in, it's making me feel like it's marginal, and it's such in a crappy place. And this water pump has been changed, but I got another water pump, and I was going to debate, doing this until the summer to do everything at once, but then, I don't know. I think right there, that's one of the bolts that hold the bracket for the AC. I just think it's kind of silly because I have to change the AC, compressor now. I got another alternator. I think it's kind of silly to change the compressor now and then have to go back in there. So I'm really debating like this. I kind of don't want to, do this, kind of thing. I have a set of injectors for it, but being that now I see how the motor sits, and I got rid of a, I'm not going to bother with the stupid, there was a heat shield here. It's not that hot, it's just something that they do. But then when you have the heat shield, you block any ability to get out this heater valve and to get to the hoses, and particularly on the bottom there. The top one, obviously, not too hard. Oh yeah, I'm gonna fix this wire here. Cut it off. I'm gonna make some kind of extension for that. But going back to this, I changed that seal. That was so in there, and it's probably very common with all of the TH125 transmissions. But I got it in. I basically, I don't know if I think I showed it in another video, but I didn't make a video specific for this Celebrity. But basically, I bought a 3/4 hole saw, and I put it on a socket, and because it would not come out. I tried even heating it. I tried a lot of things. I realized I didn't buy a new neutral safety switch, so it could be still done at this rate. I don't want to. I have a new booster here. I had a friend help me here, so I had to do it. But in between here, that's the hole for the accelerator cable, and of course the one on Rock Auto is listed wrong, and it doesn't work. I have an 85 Oldsmobile 98, so when I looked at that one, it said 41 point something inches. And pretty much that's what I measured on the other one. So I just feel it's kind of silly not to do it, being that it's so hard. Like the Oldsmobile 98 is 10 times more room. I mean, it's like, but I actually can put my hand here now. It was impossible. I don't know what it was, if the subframe was shifted or just the motor mounts, because the motor mounts were not blown up, but they were kind of, mashed, I guess the vibration kind of does that. But I think also there was like, I don't know what the hell was on this, but it was coming off in chunks. It was some kind of cover for the thing there. I mean, I could probably just put a piece of flexible insulation kind of thing and tape it to it, or have double-sided stick tape on it or something like that. That's all it's necessary. And that's only if I feel like the AC is not working as well when I eventually get it going. But yeah, if I take out the radiator, which may or may not have been replaced, but that's another fucking $150 something for that. The hoses were done, and I have a set of hoses for it. So I got the Gates number off this one, but I think it was correct online. But the bottom hose, it's also a Gates hose, but I couldn't read the thing, but I got a GM hose. So I bought a 40-year-old hose. And this was the original part number. This car engine was supposed to have a different part number, but it actually, this one will cross-reference it to. As you can see, the number on there and the number on there are two different things. So I'm hoping it's right. It looks right. And it seems like I could have used the one for the 2.8 as well. I think the difference is because that hose, that's the Gates hose, which may or may not be the same as the 2.8. It had, because it's right up against the vacuum pump, it has this little plastic elbow that goes around here, which I can reuse off the old one and put it on there. I think that's the only difference. So I'm hoping that's all that is. Like I said, the thing, and of course, I took apart this dashboard. I got the whole, what do you call it, apart. I should put it back together, I should say. I got the boot back on the rack and pinion, and I got the bolt through. That was a real big pain in the ass. I did like I said, I did the axle seals. You can see I did new ball joints, new control arm bushings. Everything's tightened in, and they don't have the bushing, which is so smart. The bushing, which they should really have, is on the big GMs, because if you buy like polyurethanes, for the big GMs, they just totally articulate 360 degrees. These are rubber, but that's what they do. I would love it if they made bushings like this for those cars, but they make them stationary, so they, you know, to me, if it just moves easier, it's better, and that's not binding, and then it gives you the, you know, because technically on a big rear-wheel drive car, you suppose, like especially on the upper control arm bushings, you're supposed to leave these bolts loose, and then get the car and get it settled, and it's not easy to do that because if you're doing all this and you're putting new springs in and it sits higher, you know, you're supposed to basically get it down on the ground and then tighten these up, but you really got to like bounce it, be good to drive it around the block a couple of times. All these fucking studs came out and my welder is just not working well, and like I welded a lot of this and then it just fell right out. I'm like, what the heck? I really don't know what's going on with it. It's spitting, and but I lost one and I had to use a regular bolt, so hopefully it's okay. It's kind of on center. Yeah, so a lot of good things happening with this car. This is a mess, you know, but I got all new dashboard stuff and everything. I got a voltmeter and I got a temperature gauge, you know, and I changed the temperature sensor accordingly, which is right over there. It's a 2-prong one. That's why there's 2 wires. So they just basically don't use one of the wires in these ears. And supposedly they don't, you know, you can put the 1-wire one. There's a 1-wire that's meant for the gauge. So apparently it grounds through the sensor where this one may not, you know, so the 2-prong doesn't. So it doesn't really matter if you got shit on the threads, you know. I'm probably going to leave this hose alone. It's completely unavailable, all these kind of hoses, but it might have even been replaced with something, maybe when it was available. But I'd like to change the thermostat at the same time. And I'm like, if I take open the whole, you know, this far with the antifreeze system, I might as well just do the water pump, do this, do that. I really hate to do the radiator because it's just more money. But I'm impressed because there's actually room to work here. Now, you know, I got to put the reservoir in for the steering still. But this is like all good stuff. I mean, I mean, I could not get my hands back here, and I'm not quite sure what the hell I went to. I had to look at some older videos because it was just like, I'm like, there's something wrong here. So I don't know if somebody, like, maybe one of those motor mounts weren't right, although it looked right. You know, maybe, you know, a similar car, they look similar, but they're not in the right place, and the motor was like this. Because it had a lot of vibration. You know, I know it's a diesel, but it just felt funny until you hit the gas, you know, so... otherwise, I kind of really like this car. It's funny, you know, but so far so good. And I'm going to update on the 1940 Buick and show you what I'm doing with that one. This guy over here. Yeah, it's the mess. I'm such a slob. It's so bad. But I have a lot of things on my plate, and I just close the garage door, and the mess goes away. How about that? Yeah, so basically, I'd like to check out also, like, somebody put this motor in before I bought it, and I'm not quite sure what he did here. I guess this went to the battery and it just pulled out on me while I was playing with everything. I just don't know what some people do sometimes. I guess this is probably the wires for the pump. I might hook it back in there because there may be nothing wrong. It's possible that it wasn't getting power because of something with the glow plug relay or something like that, or there's another fuse somewhere that they're just not aware of at the time. But yeah, it kind of seems I got to do everything at once. I took out the radiator fan too because it makes a lot of noise. I got 2 used ones. Hopefully one of them is okay, but like it really winds up. And I bought bearings inside. I took it apart and I greased it all up. And I think one side only has a bearing. I can't remember, but I do have them somewhere. But I'm just like, I changed the power steering pump. You can't find that tensioner. It seems okay, but I changed the pulley for the tensioner. I think somebody put a plastic one there, and that's why the belt used to squeal a lot. Because it's just a little bit shorter, and if you put the stock belt, it just, you know, when you initially start it, when you shut it off, you get the chirp, you know, that happens. So, figured I'd upgrade this, show you the stuff I'm changing. Like I said, I'd like to sort out a few things. I really haven't even touched this thing. Like I said, I ordered a cable. Somehow AutoZone had it in some other state. And I ordered it for the 85 Oldsmobile 98 because it looks the same and it should be the same. It's the same motor and it looked right, where this one did not look right. I just ordered it because I thought it was going to be the last one, and that's it. But they're all the listings on these A bodies, they call them, they're all wrong when it comes to Pioneer and ATP for that matter. So I ordered it for an Oldsmobile 98, and even though it's a bigger car, it seems to be correct. In the worst case scenario, I got a cable for that, and I'll just have to try to reuse the cable, which is a real pain in the ass. And I made it harder on myself just simply because of that. I hope I can get it in there. I hate to have to take out this booster again, but like you could see what I'm talking about. Like everything is so smashed in here that it's really kind of silly to not do a lot of this stuff if you don't want to touch it again, you know, because it could be a real pain in the neck. You know, why bother? You know, this is what makes it unfun to have this car. But you know, I was actually contemplating, because I don't know if you saw on other videos that I had, but unfortunately I did mix them with the other Buick videos. I had the big, you know, piece that goes across that holds the motor and suspension, and I did that because well, actually originally I wanted to drop the motor out to the bottom, because that's how I felt it was so impossible to work on. You know, taking out the fan helped over here, but I mean, this is night and day. I'm just so thinking, I'm like, I don't know how I didn't change the glow, like why did I fix the glow plugs a long time ago? But I know I couldn't even think about getting back there. I really don't know what it is. I mean, it's not like, I mean, there's more AC parts in here than before, so it's not like the AC was really anything to do with it. But very interested to see how it starts up too. And you know, because when you don't have a glow plug igniting and you have two glow plugs lighting the other ones up, the other cylinders, they run, but they run very cold and very sooty, and it makes a lot of carbon, and it takes a real long time for the engine to warm up. And it's not so much that the engine doesn't warm up, because it can heat up to 200 degrees. You got to get a hot explosion on a diesel to initiate all of that happening correctly, you know. So the glow plug is there to make a hot fire. So once it really makes a hot fire to start with, it just keeps going like that. When you have, you know, just a cylinder going for the ride, it's basically, you know, working, but it's just using so much more fuel, and it's compressing, and it's making the power, and it's doing what it's got to do for the most part. But it's never a clean combustion then. You get a lot of extra soot, a lot of extra fucking gook in the motor and whatnot. And that's never a good thing. And it takes, like, you know, you'd have to drive it for at least 45 minutes probably to really clear it out. You know, it's the same idea like if you had a leaky injector but the engine ran fine, you get this big stream of gray smoke out. But what happens is the engine starts to run so warm that it makes a full combustion just based on getting to temperature, you know. I guess the other thing I'm going to be happy about this car is I'm going to actually have heat inside, because I had no heater core. The guy even told me it was leaking, and I drove it for a little while like that, but it was just dripping too much. And I got to fix the front floorboards on the passenger side, because that leak looks like it was there for a long time, actually. So yeah, I'm debating about this radiator, and that's about it, you know. Because if I do the radiator, I got to do all that other stuff. I got to make I don't know what I'm going to go into, and then if I don't have the top hose, then I got to kind of move all this, like this, with all these lines hooked up. It's like everything's kind of in the way, and it's like, it's kind of silly not to do it all at once. But I don't have a, you know, any template for this other thing other than looking at pictures. So, you know, that's about it, I guess. You know, that's what my conundrums are, and you know, eventually I'll get to all this. And I'm gonna make a video on the Buick now. I just thought anybody that's interested in these cars, they may want to check it out, you know, and see. But you know, this car got new motor mounts, new rack and pinion, new power steering pump, and you know, new brake boost. This is all because I just wanted to get the heater core done, because you can't get in there. This stupid you know, heat shield that was there, and I get the reason why they do it. It's counterproductive, and this whole heater valve, they could have made it a lot easier. There's two little hoses coming off the heater valve. You know, you can probably see the gold stuff in there. Okay, and there's two that goes like this, and then it comes out, and one end is a straight line. It's mounted right there on that screw right there. Okay, see that hanging down, and it goes under, and it connects to the long hose, and then this weird hose. I had to buy another hose from another car and make it work. Right now it's not really perfect, but you know, this is the way it was, and now that I look at it, I'm like, why the hell couldn't it just be a straight line? I just copied what was there. You know, maybe I can point it down. I'm not quite sure. It is a little bit kinked, but I went to a lot of money to buy. I bought like Ford Taurus hoses, like a big long hose, and cut a section off. I may have to rotate it, because that's the one thing I may not have realized where I gotta be with it. But you know, I guess sometimes you want some articulation in case the motor mounts do go bad again, but I don't think so. But this guy is gonna need to be tweaked probably. I mean, the good news is I look at that filter. I put that filter in when I first got the car, and it's you know, I just put a pre-filter. It's pretty freaking clean. Now that smells like I don't know if it's diesel or if it's brake fluid from the lines. Probably brake fluid from the lines. I can't smell, but it's clean in there. That's the main thing. And I never had a bleeding issue with this car. Like my other 85 Oldsmobile 98 is outside the garage door here. I really can't drive it anymore because I need an injector pump. And I actually bought an injector pump for this car at the time, and it's the same injector pump. And I had changed the injectors on the other car because I was doing the heads. So I'm like, I'm going to try to, you know, because it wasn't bad, the injector pump, but it eventually started leaking, and it got worse and worse. And if I warmed it up, it would like not get hot. You know, it would not, if I warmed it up, it would not leak. And then now it's just leaking all the time, and it's, you know, I let it sit for a day, and basically it's a pain in the ass to start. You gotta bleed this contraption and everything, you know, so there's a whole bunch of shit going on, and something was keeping the light on for this, but it's possible something with the way that they, you know, rigged up this before, and the pump may have something to do with it. I'm not quite sure. Eventually I might have to get a what do you call it? Why does that one look the same as the other one I put in? That's interesting. I didn't even see this one. I thought I got a regular coolant temperature sensor. That's interesting. Because that one replaced that one there. I didn't get the original part number off it. Unless that's something temperature-wise for the... It can't be, really. Oh, that is so weird. Huh. One, I think, is a radiator fan switch, and that's just it. It doesn't have that in the other 85, but the other 85, it's a kind of a newer thing, because that's the first year of that body style. So this is something. That would be really fucked up if I changed the wrong one. It seemed to be correct. This is a lockup thing. This ends up being over here somewhere. Has a vacuum line on it, and helps it shift into lockup. I changed the lockup switch when I had the trainee side pan off. I changed all these gaskets. You can see the new gasket. This is interesting, I must say. I'm a little bit puzzled. Huh. I may need to really like clean it off and see what the deal is, but somehow I feel this is actually the radiator fan switch. I wonder if that's what I ended up buying and putting it in the wrong place, and still this thing wires to the other one. Wow, this is interesting. Huh. Because I think right there is where the radiator fan switch is, and I think on my 85 Oldsmobile 98, I think that one is a more conventional coolant temperature sensor, you know, with the just a two-prong little guy rubberized thing, where this thing here is like the other one. This is going to be interesting. I wonder if I saved the old sensor. That would have been smart. I probably did, because I don't throw anything out. But I'll obviously I still have a chance if this one here, if I take this one out, which I'm going to. It was the idea, but I didn't realize that it was like that. But once I take it out, I will get the numbers off it, and hopefully the one I bought doesn't cross-reference to that, because then that would go there, and there would be a different one there. Whether I make it a coolant temperature sensor or what, I'll find out. Got a new map sensor for it, but I am going to leave the EGR valve unused, and you got all these guys over here. This is a lot of fun. Alright, so that's about it. I guess long enough this video. I'm going to quit for the night, and after I make another video for this car. Thank you for watching.